Holy crap, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Rock City. That's not Rack City because I'm not Tyga, which means that we're here to talk about some of the best rock, pop, basically the non-metal albums that have been released that I can kind of get together in one little video. That way you guys know some of the newer and more exciting things that are happening in the world of rock and roll. Now today we're going to be talking about one album that's been out for about 2 weeks. We're going to be also take a little bit of a more dedicated look at 2 live albums that were just released this past Tuesday on March the 25th, I believe it was, and we're going to examine the concept of the live album in general. Now let's get to the album that we're going to talk about first up, and that's the new David Bowie album. This is a landmark release, which is entitled The Next Day. Now, funnily enough, whenever you first view this album, you're going to see the album cover basically appears as though he's just slapped The Next Day over the album cover for his album Heroes, which was released in the 1970s, which is kind of fitting considering this is an album that many people have said really is a draw and a callback to his 1970s era material, kind of returning back to the ideas that made David Bowie great in the first place. And upon listening to this album for the first time, you kind of get that idea, but you're not really too sure how to feel. It's definitely a grand album. It definitely has a lot of the trademark classic Bowie elements to it, but you're really not too sure if it's really an album that is willing to be called among the pantheon of great David Bowie albums. But then you continue to listen to it. This is one that actually requires multiple listens in order for you to really recognize that David Bowie's level of secrecy on this album, not to mention his ability to really keep this an underground project, to the point where have we now basically surfaced almost out of nowhere, and the idea that a new album was coming out in probably, whenever most people heard it, less than a month was just ludicrous. But whenever it came out, it definitely had all of the charms of a 7-year or more wait, should I say, and definitely is a good one. If you're a David Bowie fan and perhaps have been slightly underwhelmed by his output in the late 90s and early 2000s, then this is definitely an album for you to kind of revisit your old Bowie days. This is definitely one that is definitely fit to be in the pantheon because it does have some straightforward songwriting. It has some nice harmonies. How Does the Grass Grow is a fantastic track. Really, really love that song. And you know what? Some of these tracks just rock. Others are kind of just, they're weird little, melodies and they're weird little structures where David's voice really showcases that it is kind of immortalized by age. It's one of those things where he does not sound as though he has aged as much as perhaps his physical body truly has. Now, there's a pair of live albums that have come out as of yesterday. And if you're viewing this video in the future, we're talking the last Tuesday of March. Joe Bonamassa's live at the Vienna Opera House, which is an acoustic evening with Joe Bonamassa, as well as Iron Maiden's Maiden England 1988. Now, the 1988 Iron Maiden live album is actually a re-release of a VHS that was released in the first part of the 1990s, in 1994, that actually did not have all of the songs on it whenever it was released on cassette and early CD. This is one where, because of spatial limitations, it was left off. And also, this is something that has been corrected in 2013's re-release. Now, this was performed and released during Iron Maiden's heyday. This was right after the release of Seventh Son of the Seventh Son, so we have a lot of material off of there. Of course, we have a lot of the classic material from right now, what would be right around their 10-year anniversary as a band, so there is a lot of great material on here. And like all of the material from this era, while the sound and recording equipment perhaps on the original didn't exactly sound 100% crisp, this got a little bit of a polish, you got a little bit of a makeover, so it sounds extremely, extremely good. And considering Seventh Son of the Seventh Son is amongst one of my favorite Iron Maiden records, if not my favorite, and definitely is one of the most solid albums of all time, this is definitely a great live release. It's one that you certainly want to have. The band sounds tight, and I haven't gotten a chance to view the DVD portion of this yet, and I really, really want to make the time, but it's Iron Maiden, and it's certainly worth your dollar. As far as Joe Bonamassa, an acoustic night at the Vienna Opera House, this is kind of an interesting idea and something that may take a lot of people by surprise. Mainly because, if you followed my channel, I've definitely reviewed the last couple Joe Bonamassa studio albums. I've missed his last studio live album, which was live at the Royal Albert Hall, which was fan-fucking-tastic. I mean, we're talking soaring guitar solos, fantastic renditions of all sorts of Joe Bonamassa classic live tracks, and just, it was an all-out great experience. Now this is kind of the antithesis to that, mainly because, not that it's bad, but because it's acoustic. So this is completely done with an acoustic guitar, so you're not going to have those same soaring guitar solos, you're not going to have song extensions and things like that. Instead, you're going to have something that feels exceptionally intimate, something that definitely brings out a little bit more raw emotion. Now, one thing that it makes me think about is that Pain of Salvation, for all of you metal fans, released a live album in the middle portion of the 2000s, entitled 12:5, that was very much like this, where it was mainly acoustically driven. There was a little bit of a heaviness to that album, however, that's not the case here with the Bonamassa stuff. However, he does have a lot of help from his band that definitely captures the ambience, should I say, the ambiance of the material perfectly. Now, what about the live album concept in general? What are some of your favorite live albums, Nation? Tell Rock City what some of yours are. The one thing that I think is really, really missing right now from the rock universe is the Unplugged albums. The Unplugged albums, yes, they were an MTV entity, and of course MTV hardly stands for music television or music anything anymore. However, whenever MTV did their Unplugged series, they produced some of the best rock and roll live albums of all time. The two that come to mind that really just blow me away to this very day are the Unplugged editions for Alice in Chains and Nirvana. Alice in Chains is probably one of my favorite live albums of all time, Alice in Chains Unplugged, their only live release that isn't bootlegged. And the reason for this is because there's a lot of different storylines that are going into this. It's been their first show in 3 years. They played a lot of classics, but at the same time, the one song that perhaps had unmatched popularity, Man of the Box, was strangely absent from this set. And yet it's still such a powerful and passionate set. Now you can definitely tell that Lane's head is not completely there. There's a couple of times where it seems like he's not there at all, probably because he's left the stage, no doubt to do some heroin. And actually, at the beginning of Sludge Factory, which is early on in the disc, one thing that's cut from the CD, but remains in the DVD, is that he actually fucks up some of the lines of his own song. So the song had to actually be restarted. It was something where the band chuckled it off. However, you could definitely tell that this was, well, Lane Staley's deterioration process had already begun. It spanned the entire career of the band, with the exception of the sporadic singles that popped up after they broke up, and of course excluding everything that has happened ever since the band has gotten back together with William Duvall. This is an album that you definitely should pick up if you are a lover of live albums, and a lover of rock music, and a citizen of Rock City. But what are some of your favorites? What are some of yours that really kind of spurred attention? And this is something that's not necessarily simply with rock music. What are some of your favorite, metal live albums? I know that I love everything that Opeth has done live. I have all of them over here in my collection. But what are some of your favorites? Let the citizenship of Rock City, should I say, know. I'll talk to you guys later. Next time I think we're going to go a little bit more in the realm of pop, which is probably going to scare the crap out of you for episode 5 of Rock City. But stick with it, mainly because it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it may take some of you completely by surprise. But no worries, fair citizens. You're mayor of Rock City. He's always on your side.